Hello, you're watching TVP World News. I'm Jan Srebrenica. Residents of Kyiv endured another sleepless night as the Russian army attacked the Ukrainian capital with drones and ballistic missiles for the second night in a row. At least 2 people have been killed and 16 have been wounded. The strikes began around 1:15 a.m. local time, when the first explosions rocked the Ukrainian capital and Shahed drones buzzed over the city. Swarms of UAVs could be seen flying over the historic Pechersk district in the city center. Later during the night, local media reported dozens of explosions and the distinctive sound of ballistic missiles. According to Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko, the attack caused damage and sparked fires at apartment buildings in the Shevchenkivsky and Darnitsky districts. The airstrikes also caused fires to break out at nearby gas stations and garages, and blast waves set off car alarms throughout Kyiv. The air raid alerts in Kyiv stopped at around 7 a.m. local time, but the full extent of the attack is still unknown, as local authorities continue to investigate several impact sites. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy met with U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine Kyiv Kellogg in Rome on Wednesday. The two discussed American weapons supplies to Kyiv, especially air defense systems. Washington had already resumed arms deliveries to Ukraine earlier this week.
I had a substantive conversation with U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Ukraine, Kyiv Kellogg. I thanked him for participating in the Ukraine Recovery Conference, where the general leads the U.S. delegation. We discussed weapons supplies and strengthening air defense. Given the increase in Russian attacks, this remains one of our top priorities. We also covered the purchase of American weapons, joint defense manufacturing, and localization efforts in Ukraine. We focused in detail on sanctions pressure. We understand the need for tougher restrictions on Russian energy, especially secondary sanctions targeting buyers of Russian oil. We are hopeful for progress on the bill proposed by Senators Graham and Blumenthal in the U.S. Congress. This could certainly make Russia give greater thought to peace.
Despite Washington resuming arms deliveries to Kyiv, Ukrainian officials, including President Zelenskyy, have called the aid miniscule. Michael McKay, CEO of Great Bull Rescue Group, told TVP World he believes the limited support is purely political.
I think it's politics. I think it's a failure to recognize the threat. For example, the number of drones and missiles launched at Ukraine last month was over 5,000, which is 10 times more than it was a year ago. Over 500 missiles and drones launched at Ukraine by Russia in June of 2024. So there's a lack of a connection between the need. For example, in Trump's statement right there, you notice that it was personal. It was about his feelings about Putin, but it was not a reflection of what the weapons are for, which is to defend Ukrainian towns and cities. So I think the holdup, the insufficiency is purely political. It comes from a lack of political will. It is not logistics. It is not supply. It is simply an inexplicable reluctance of the US and other Western allies to do what is necessary.
According to Estonian Foreign Minister Margus Tsahkna, the country may veto the EU's 18th sanctions package if the price cap on Russian oil is not lowered. The European Union has been working on a new sanctions package for a while now, but has been unable to pass it due to opposition from Slovakia. According to the Estonian Foreign Minister, the country would like to pass the sanctions in their original form and opposes tweaking the oil price cap. The package was originally meant to include a provision lowering the maximum cost of Russian oil per barrel from 60 to 45 US dollars. Furthermore, Tsahkna said there are signals that the G7 nations are ready to impose an even lower Russian oil price cap. He also added that if a strong 18th EU sanctions package was passed alongside a hard-hitting sanctions bill by the US, Russia would feel serious pressure. French President Emmanuel Macron concluded the Wednesday programme of his state visit to the United Kingdom at the City of London banquet. In a speech at the event, Macron spoke about the importance of cooperation between the two countries. According to the French president, and I quote, "The European Union was stronger with you, and you were stronger with the European Union."
After all the turbulences on global economy, from one side because of the overcapacities and oversubsidies from China, on the other side because of this trade war launched by the United States, what is the best solution for all of us? I'm very respectful for the voice of people and the choice your country made a few years ago, 9 years ago. And I'm lucid about the solemnity of the state visit being the first one of a European head of state post-Brexit. But I have to say, the European Union was stronger with you, and you were stronger with the European Union.
US President Donald Trump announced a 50% tariff on copper imports into the country as of the 1st of August. According to the US leader, he made the decision after getting familiar with a robust national security assessment.
I am announcing a 50% tariff on copper effective August 1st, 2025, after receiving a robust national security assessment. Copper is necessary for semiconductors, aircraft, ships, ammunition, data centers, lithium-ion batteries, radar systems, missile defense systems, and even hypersonic weapons, of which we are building many. Copper is the second most used material by the Department of Defense.
The European Union is aiming to strike a deal with the US in the coming days to avoid a wave of major tariffs. The European Commission made the comment after President Donald Trump extended his deadline from Wednesday to the 1st of August.
The United States has moved its deadline for finalising deals with partner countries to the 1st of August. However, we aim to reach a deal before then, potentially even in the coming days. We have shown our readiness to reach an agreement in principle, and the Commission has consulted closely with our Member States and industry to ensure that there is a high degree of cohesion in our overall EU approach.
Slovakia continues to oppose the EU's proposed 18th sanctions package on Russia, despite mounting pressure from the European Union. More now from our EU correspondent Angela Skujins in Brussels.
Slovakia, as directed by that country's Prime Minister Robert Fico, has continued to rail against the European Commission's proposal of an 18th sanctions package against Russia, targeting that country for its ongoing invasion of Ukraine. Now, a spokesperson from the Slovakian permanent representation to the EU told TVP World in a statement that despite hours of conversation between the 27 ambassadors in the Belgian capital, their position on the sanctions package remains unchanged. We know that this package aims to target Moscow's energy revenues as well as financial and military sectors. But energy is exactly the reason why Bratislava is voting against the measure. That country claims that if it exits a hefty energy contract with Gazprom, that's the Russian state-owned energy giant, it will fall foul of a significant fine. But this is all part of the European Commission's bold push to exit Russian fossil fuels by 2030. We know that the European Commissioner for the Economy, Valdis Dombrovskis, stated in the Belgian capital on Tuesday that he has spent a significant amount of time attempting to lobby those 27 EU member states to vote in support of the measure, which would continue to bolster Ukraine on the battlefield. Angela Skujins from Brussels for TVP World.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has described a suspected laser attack by China's military directed at a German aircraft over the Red Sea as unacceptable. The incident took place at the beginning of July. Beijing has dismissed the claims, saying they are completely inconsistent with the facts.
The possible laser attack on a military surveillance aircraft is completely unacceptable. The Chinese ambassador has been summoned to the Foreign Office. The Foreign Minister has not yet submitted a final report, including on the conversation. I don't want to make a final assessment today, but something like this shows that we also have to deal with such incidents, and that we will also investigate where exactly this laser attack on a German aircraft came from.
On Wednesday, fire brigades across Poland intervened 961 times in response to severe storms battering the country. Reportedly, the calls mainly concerned cleanup following the rainstorms. The firefighters were mostly tasked with the removal of trees knocked down by the winds, clearing roads and sidewalks from various types of debris, and securing damaged residential and service buildings. Due to the heavy rainfall, emergency services were also often called up to help with flooded basements and streets. This week alone, Polish firefighters responded to at least 4,200 calls, and the bad weather is expected to continue at least until the end of the week. Now, Poland is bracing for impact as storms and heavy rains raise fears of floods, as well as questions of whether the danger is being played up or down by the forecasts. Professor Maciej Zalewski of the European Centre for Eco-Hydrology at the Polish Academy of Sciences told TVP World that whether this dynamic is unpredictable in nature.
In general, we can say that increasing the variability of climate processes, making them more and more unpredictable. So sometimes very serious prediction of threats are not really appearing, and in other cases that sometimes are like last year, the prediction were not so dramatic, but we have a very bad consequences. So that's dynamic weather is hard to precisely predict because the intensity of circulation is growing.
This stepping up its border controls with Germany and Lithuania. The checks, which began earlier this week and will continue to at least until the 5th of August, have already involved inspections of at least 25,000 people.
We've determined that the situation is under control, that the border guard, supported by the army and police, is carrying out its objectives. So far, 25,000 people have been checked, including people who had been apprehended on both borders for attempting to cross them illegally. Traffic towards Poland from both Germany and Lithuania is fluid. The Polish state is working efficiently. Poland's borders are being defended efficiently by uniformed services, the border guard, army, police, the services that have been appointed and authorized to defend our borders and ensure the safety of our homeland. They are carrying out the duties set upon them by the country very professionally and very well.
Several hundred Polish warehouse workers employed by the Albert Heijn supermarket chain in the Netherlands have begun a temporary strike. The Poles demand equal treatment, equal pay, as well as bonuses and breaks for those who are employed full-time. The protesters claim that the Polish employees of the chain do not receive the same bonuses, have shorter breaks and less paid leave than other workers. According to the Dutch Central Bureau of Statistics, people employed by employment agencies such as these Poles earn 37% less than their counterparts employed by the company itself. Despite the labor action, these workers have reported fear of repercussions from the strike by the employment agencies. They have already been told that if this strike continues, they can be fired or forcibly transferred to other facilities. And that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and please stay with us here on TVP World.